What is the strangest thing that happened to you that you can't logically explain? As a child visiting my grandma's house, my mom's mom. Whenever I left the house, I'd wave next door to Ken, who was always sat in the bay window looking out at the sea. They lived right on the coast off the North Sea in Hartlepool, UK. We'd never really talk, but just a little wave before I went to get into the car. One time I'm leaving my gran's house. I'm in front of my mum, who stopped at the door to talk to my gran. So I head down the steps and towards the gate. I turn back and see Ken in the window. Big smile as usual, waving at me. I give him a wave back. He stands up, gives me the thumbs up, and wanders towards the back of the room. My mum comes walking down the steps and asks, "Who are you waving at?" I replied, "Ken." To this day, I can remember my mam's face. She just went white, but didn't say anything to me. It was only a few weeks later when she plucked up the courage to tell me that Ken had died a few days prior to our visit to my gran's. I don't believe in ghosts, but I know I saw him. I can still picture his striped gray sweater with light stripes across it, him waving and getting up out of his chair. There was no one else in the house. He lived by himself. Brains are weird. I 100% believe you. My cousin's daughter, 4 years old maybe, says she talks to our dead grandpa all the time. One time my cousin caught her singing along to my grandpa's favorite song, giggling and running around the room. She asked her what she was doing and she said, "I'm playing with Tata and he's teaching me a song." She got so spooked because there's no way her daughter could have heard it anywhere, as my cousin doesn't like to listen to it because the song reminds her of him and it makes her sad. It's also an old tango that you have to actively search on the internet to find. There are other things about her kid that are straight up weird and everyone is convinced she's a medium or something. I once was changing pants in my room before work and took off my belt. After putting on my other pair of pants, I went to put my belt back on, but it belt was gone. No one else was in the room and I spent a good 10 minutes looking for it, as I had simply set it on the floor. It's been 10 years and I've never seen that belt again. Meanwhile, a guy across the world finds a belt in his bedroom all of a sudden. I once shut my ear in a car door. No idea how. Have tried to recreate it and can't. But my God, that hurt. You deserve something for this. A football helmet to prevent it from happening again. Edit. Wow, this exploded. Thank you everyone. This one is strange to me because it was so long ago and I'm convinced I have to be remembering things wrong. I was a young kid at the grocery store and I saw this toy helicopter, like Hot Wheel sized, that I really wanted for some reason. I, of course, didn't buy it, but the memory of it stuck in my head. A few nights later, I had a dream where I was playing with the helicopter. But I realized it was a dream and stupid young me thought that if I put it under my pillow, it would still be there when I woke up. After that, I woke up and eagerly checked under the pillow to get it. For some reason, it was right where I left it in the dream. As a kid, I wasn't surprised to find it there, as it all made perfect sense to me then. But years later I have no clue how the toy helicopter actually got underneath the pillow. When I was younger, in elementary school, I used to have the same dream every weekend, starting on Saturday when I would go to sleep and then waking up in the middle of the night on Sunday and throwing up. The dream was always a bunch of numbers. Not even anything happening, just a bunch of random jumbled up numbers all over the place. I never understood why that happened, where the same dream would happen on the same night every week and I would throw up every single time. I always think about it and wonder what it was, or if it was just some weird coincidence. Also, I would not have any signs of being sick before or after. Maybe someone else has experienced this? I have a vivid memory of being at the Statue of Liberty as a child. On my dad's shoulders. Seeing the skyline of NYC. I remember what we ate for lunch that day. Etc. I remember the ferry we took. I've always thought about this memory and talked about it. But my family denies I ever went to NYC. I didn't go for the first time until I was 23. But strangely enough, when I went, I remembered everything just how it had been when I was there with my dad. Same. Had a Thanksgiving where my whole extended family came to visit from Minnesota and Wisconsin, live in Michigan, but my whole family denies it ever happening. My uncle even taught me how to throw a punch with my thumb on the outside of my fingers so I don't break them. When I was about 12 years old, I went up to Lake Tahoe with my friend and his parents, who had a condo in Incline Village. One day, the two of us are walking to the bowling alley and cross a street in a crosswalk. Right before we get to the curb, a car comes really close to hitting us. All of a sudden, we're both up on the curb, like we were lifted a few feet. We both looked at each other strangely. Did you jump? No. Did you? No. We spent the next hour kind of dumbfounded. It didn't feel like a shove or any use of force. We were still in the street. Then we weren't. On Reddit one night, I read that thread where the op hallucinated weird stuff until a commenter suggested that he check for a carbon monoxide leak. The commenter probably saved his life. I went to bed thinking, oh yeah, I never did check whether my new house's smoke alarms also detect carbon monoxide. I need to check that out in the morning. At maybe 6 a.m. my wife and I awoke to our fire alarm screeching, with a recorded voice telling us carbon monoxide was detected. We grabbed the baby and the dog, piled into our car in the driveway, and called the fire department to check it out. After they tested, they told us no carbon monoxide was detected. But sometimes fire alarms behave unexpectedly when their batteries are low. This was maybe 5 years after moving into a house that's new construction. So yes, I was super delinquent in checking it. It wasn't even the first time I'd read that story on Reddit. Anyway, there is absolutely a logical explanation. An improbable but possible coincidence. But that's how I ended up spending huge piles of money on a bunch of Nest Protect units. So I could at least get a pleasant phone notification when my alarm's batteries are low. My girlfriend got out of the shower and called me into the bathroom to show me the mirror. There was a very strange, distinct handprint placed on the mirror. I lived alone and she was the only adult that had been to my house in about 2 years. We each placed our handprints on the sides of the mystery handprint for reference, and neither look anything like the mystery print. I still have no idea how it got there. Mirror handprint picture. Edit to address a couple of ideas. I've lived in this house for over a decade. The mirror isn't newly installed. The mirror is cleaned pretty regularly. I've taken many showers and fogged up the mirror and have never seen it. Edit to not the person I bought the house from but the previous owner. She died in this house. I was watching my neighbor's 5-year-old kid a few years prior to this and she was eating at the kitchen table. She asked me who was that lady that just went upstairs. There was no lady or any other person in the house. It's on the other side. Oh, beep that. When I was 10 years old, I didn't want to go to school one day. I faked a stomachache so my grandmother would let me stay home. I've always been a bad liar. So my GMA tried to call my bluff. She told me if I was too sick for school then she would be scheduling me a DRS appointment. 3 hours later I was rushed into emergency surgery. My fake illness was actually appendicitis and it was so inflamed that if I hadn't come in that day my appendix would have ruptured, potentially killing me. I felt 100% fine that day. Faking sick saved my life. My dad owned a small garden shop. So I'd stay behind the checkout after school till the shop closed. This was until I see a tall man wearing all black, like a trench coat, walking past my dad and smiling at me before going into a staff-only area. I jump up to stop him, even though I was 7. This back area filled with new shipments. I turn the corner but nobody is there. There was nowhere he could have gone. I ask my dad to check the CCTV after closing. But it's only shown me jumping up and running. And running out of frame. Weird stuff. Never felt comfortable there again. One time when I was little I had a similar experience. I had fallen asleep on the couch and woke up in the middle of the night. When I got up to go to the kitchen I saw a black silhouette of a woman with a bun and glasses, and she went into the kitchen and I heard all of pans fall. I rush into the kitchen, no one is there and everything is in its place. I know I could have imagined the figure but I cannot explain the sound of the crashing pans and no one else heard it, they were all asleep.